Okay, so here is the next engine that's in for a rebuild. This is a 3-litre SC engine. We thought it was going to be a Carrera 3 motor because that's the car it came out of, but it's not original, or it looks to not be original. It's a 930/13, and it does have a 9-bolt crankshaft. So as you can see there, but I'll give you a quick walk around so you can see the condition of this engine. It was running not very well. As you can see, it's been leaking crazy amounts of oil. Absolute mess, and I am not looking forward to pulling it apart. As I put it on my stand, I did notice this crack in the air hose there. Can you see that? So that's obviously going to be a cause of some terrible running. And this is the first time I've seen one of these. This is on the back of the camshaft tower. They've put some sort of a blanking plate, and I assume it's because it was leaking and they didn't replace the Welch plug. And unfortunately, what they've done, they cut a big hole in it. So that's a shame. But yeah, you can see the condition of some of the tins, and one of the exhausts doesn't even have the heat exchanger part around it anymore. And the other one does, but as you can see, it is absolutely caked in grime. I'm not even going to bother trying to clean that. That's going to go straight to a shop to be hot tanked. None of these nuts are going to come off. They're going to, look at that, there's no threads on those studs anyway. They all have to be cut off anyway. I don't really want to put this back on the car. I'll see if I can talk the owner into doing some exhaust upgrades. Very original looking, doesn't have the hydraulic chain tensioner upgrade that a lot of people do, and also has the original lower valve covers, so probably talk him into doing some upgrades with the chain tensioners and the valve covers. And you can see the condition of the runners. It is a big port. I believe the 930/13 designation is a rest of world 180 horsepower, but it still has the big ports, so it's got the larger diameter intake runners, and hopefully it's got the big port heads in it. See how much that intake sleeve, the rubber sleeve, has sort of bulged and distorted with time, so they're all original. I will give the airbox a good clean, and I will smoke test it to make sure it's got no leaks. He did say it was running. Looking at the condition of the warm-up regulator, look at the rust and the corrosion on the body. The bottom of it might look at, maybe it's been rebuilt at some point, but I'd like to try and get these rebuilt along with the fuel distributor. Again, just looking at it, there's no recent stickers on it to say it's been rebuilt, but you know, considering what we're about to do and what we're going to spend, I think it's a small amount of money to spend to get this completely right. Yeah, the original cloth covered breather hose from the crankcase, so yeah, some upgrades are going to need to be done. So as you can see, that's what I'm dealing with. I'll try and flip it over. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll flip it over and we'll have a bit of a laugh. Okay, so we've got the engine on its side. Still has the original horrible slotted bolts for the oil relief pistons. It's had the air injection removed, and they've just been bent over and crimped, the pipes. Broken exhaust studs, awesome. Oh, there you go, there's one of the washers for the head nuts, for the head studs. Yeah, so she's a bit of an oily girl, very messy, and hopefully we'll be able to turn this into this horrible looking pile of crud into something a lot more pretty. I'm just starting to tear down and just took the valve covers off for a bit of a look-see, and I'm not sure if that's meant to be there, but check this out. That was completely filled up with silicone. So I'm just pulling the injector out, and to be honest, I think they're all going to go in the bin. Oh, check this out. So I've got the shroud off and it's just caked. This has been leaking for a while, and it's thick. This is probably the worst one I've ever had. So I've just pulled the timing covers off. As you can see, original chain tensioners, and it is fully extended. So I'm going to say this chain is very worn out. I think this one's actually collapsed. Look at this. Actually, let me get a screwdriver. There you go. Completely collapsed. Not much wear on this side. You can see the chain's just, you know, touching, but on a little bit of wear. You can see the outline of the chain. Actually, this one's actually a little bit better. See how it's not completely polished on this side, and focus. No, this one's got the same amount of wear. So these provide the tension onto the chain to stop it from flapping around. That wheel's not too bad. This one's not too bad. This one's a lot worse. See, it's taken quite a bit off the side of the teeth. So this is the right side camshaft. So these lobes are pretty good. This is for cylinder 2. See on the bottom here where my thumb is? See that little black mark? That's where it's starting to pit. Oh, come on. My phone won't focus. There we go. So you can just see the pitting through the polished surface. This one's got some pitting. See that? So that's a bit worse. Okay, so that's got a little bit of just there at the bottom. See those two dark spots? Just starting to pit. It's got a number 1 exhaust. Okay, this one's got a bit of pitting on the heel. See that? This there on the bottom right hand side. You see? No, a bit of dirt. No, this has got a bit of pitting. So the left hand bottom corner. So here's a new set of rockers, all freshly bushed and honed, and the faces are all perfect. That's just dust. See that? So yeah, that's where I'm at. I've just got to start taking the top end off. I cannot for the life of me get the crank pulley bolt out. So I'm going to leave that on there for the machine shop, and they're going to have a crack at getting it out for me. I don't know what they've put on that. I don't know how tight they've done it, or if they've used the strongest Loctite in the world, but someone's playing a horrible joke on me. Okay, a bit of an update. I have gotten most of the engine apart, except for the case and the crankshaft. So it turns out it's been apart before. I've just taken all the head studs out, but when I pulled the heads and the barrels and the pistons off, you could see the marks where it had been scribed. And on the underside of the pistons, I don't know if you can see it, you probably can't see it very well, but they've scratched some numbers in there. Sadly, it does have the Alusil cylinders and pistons, so I will put it to the owner as to what he wants to do, whether he wants to run the risk of trying to see whether they'll seal with a new set of rings, or whether we find a set of Nicosil and compatible pistons. All of the top steel studs were intact. 2 of the exhaust studs were broken, the dilava studs. Okay, so just got the case apart. Not 100% sure if it's been apart before, but yeah, there are, all the rod journals do have a bit of scratching on them. This is the number 6 rod bearing. You can see all the focus. Come on, do it. There you go. So it's had a bit of shit go through it. It's not great, but you can see some micro scratches on all the journals. So yeah, there's been a lot of dirt go through this engine by the looks of things. Again, I'm not 100% certain if it's been apart before, but like look at the grime build up on just the lock nuts for the oil pump. Yeah, worst case scenario, if they say that the crankshaft is no good, I do have another one, but again, I'll leave it to the machine shop to advise me on. I'm pretty sure this is all salvageable. It should be fine. There's a couple more pieces of that valve spring that are in there, so that's interesting. The other side, just pulled the crankshaft out, and you can see lots of debris that's been embedded into the bearings. Bit of wear as well, but see all the, you know what that is, that's just crap that's come through the oiling system. So yeah, we'll give it a nice big flush in the ultrasonic tank. So we are back, and the engine is fully disassembled. Now I've already Look, I just had to clean out my garage because there was just parts everywhere. So I've taken everything off to be ultrasonic cleaned and hot tanked and all sorts of things, but I just thought I'd show you the bearings. So these are the rod bearings. I've just got a torch here. Look at that. This is what happens when you don't change your oil. Look at the intermediate shaft bearings. They are absolutely, I don't even know what you'd call that. Oh, I don't know the best way to hold this torch, but look at that. Just horrible. And if you look at the mains, you can see quite a lot of embedded material. Where should you hold a torch? I don't know. Maybe I'll turn the torch off. No, you need the torch. Look at that. Ugh. So anyone that's thinking about doing a rebuild and just a top end only, well, in fairness, I mean, this fellow knew that this engine had a hard life, or it had a very checkered past, so a full rebuild was always going to happen. But replacing bearings is easy. Crankshaft is a slightly different story. Now, this is probably the only time where I've had a crankshaft where every journal has little micro scratches in it. I'm not sure how well that's showing up in the video, probably not well at all. I'm not really set up for nighttime. I mean, I can feel very, very fine. It catches my fingernail. So I don't know whether a micro polish is going to be enough. I'll take it to the machine shop hopefully tomorrow and ask their opinion. So I've just got the cases back from the ultrasonic cleaners to do all the heavy lifting. And it's come out pretty clean. I'm really only caring about the inside, not so much the outside, but see a lot of build up in that little oil relief groove there. Lots of build up down here. All pretty crusty. I don't believe the case has been apart before. And as you can see, there's a good amount of residual Loctite 574 on the outside perimeter. Okay, so you can see all that. But there's nothing on the main bearing webs. So I don't believe that Porsche actually did put sealant here when they built these engines at the factory. I know people say to do it, but if you do, there's a good chance you may increase your bearing clearances. So you've got to be a little bit mindful of that. So before I start doing any real work on the engine, I just wanted to show you how it's come up with a bit of a clean. So I've sent everything away to be ultrasonically cleaned and hot tanked and whatnot. The case has come up pretty well. I mean, obviously the inside's what I'm most concerned about. So I've pulled all the studs out and I sort of send the case away. So as you can see, it's come up very clean on the inside. And I've tested all the piston squirters. A couple of them were jammed. One of them was fairly well blocked, but it did come good in the end. And here's the other case half. So you can see again, and I haven't put it together to measure the journals yet to see, how round it is or how out of spec or in spec it is, but I'll do that shortly. But yeah, no, the case has come up well. And getting back to the components, so everything here's been ultrasonically cleaned, and if you go back to the previous videos, you'll see just how bad. I might put a couple of shots in here just to show you how horrible everything was. With the camshaft towers, I have drilled the plugs out. You can see where I've drilled the plugs out, and I've removed the spray bars. And again, there was actually a little bit of junk that came out of these, so they were partially blocked, but I don't think they were doing any real damage because the rocker arms came out reasonably unscathed. All of the intake runners have been cleaned and all the carbon and oils come out of them. All of the plastic inserts for the injectors and the O-rings were original. Most of them had crumbled, like they weren't even fully intact, so they came out quite easily. Things like the throttle arm bushing plate was covered. This has all been cleaned and degreased. These will go away for blasting and refurbishing. The sprockets, so these are the original sprockets. They're in an average state of wear. They're not very expensive, and I think when you're putting brand new timing chains in, it doesn't hurt to buy some quality new sprockets. So we've gone for Porsche Genuines for the new ones, but these are the old ones that you can see here. The chain boxes have come up reasonably well. There was a little bit of damage from the loose chain on the, because remember the tensioner on this side had completely collapsed. And you can see in here where there's a little bit of a ridge where the chain was flapping, and it's actually worn a little bit of the aluminium away. And I'm pretty sure on the case, there's a little bit of that too. So just give me 1 second, I'll go to the case. So this is the right side of the case, and as you can see here, you see that shiny spot, that's where the chain was rubbing against the case here, and just starting to on the lower edge here. But yeah, so there is a little bit of damage. It's taken away some of the contact area, but not a lot. So the gasket's still going to work fine. We have elected to upgrade. So even though these are the original timing covers, these will be replaced because we are going to upgrade to hydraulic chain tensioners. The owner's been quite wise about that. Oh, actually, let's look at the left side housing. There's quite a lot of wear on the left side here as well, where the chain's been flapping about inside the housing. And I'm assuming the case will have the same thing, but maybe not. Either way, these will be good for reuse. These are going to get vapor blasted and then resealed on the back. Valve covers, the tops will be fine. We'll reuse those. They'll be blasted. They've come up reasonably well. You can see where they have warped a little bit or whatever, because there's shiny spots where the studs go through and the nuts are clamped down, and then it's dark grey everywhere else. So I'll try and flatten these out as best I can. As for the lower valve covers, because these are the original non-turbo, again, for only a few $100s, the owner has opted to upgrade because they will leak. So we're going to, again, I'm not going to waste any money on these. They'll probably make a nice key rack for him. He can get them cleaned up, put them on the wall and mount his house keys on the wall or something. So that'll be pretty cool. Okay, so I have pulled Mr. Oil Pump apart, and this is what we see. So this is the scavenging side of the pump, which sucks all the oil up through the neck and sends it back to the cooler and the tank and the filter and whatnot. And this is the side which creates the pressure. So yeah, oil's fed through this side here from your S-hose through the pipe at the bottom of the oil tank. That's what creates the pressure. Now, I was expecting to see some damage, and it's not horrendous, but it's there. Now, I'm hoping you can see this. I don't know if you can, but there are some fine axial or radial scratches through the housing. My tool is not very sharp, so it doesn't really catch in them, but you can see them quite easily. And there's a couple on the other side. So obviously the debris come in one side here, and it's been pulverized by the gears, and then by the time it's got to this side, whoop, there goes the GoPro. Ah, that's fun. By the time it's got to the other side, it's been pulverized. There's a couple of big scratches. I don't know if you can catch that in the light. There's a big scratch there, which I can catch with my tool. And on the pickup side, the scavenge side, there is a lot more. Again, on one side, this side here, there is lots and lots and lots of scratches, and the tool does catch. Don't know if you can hear it, but if you can hear it, it means it's catching. The other side, of course, is pretty smooth. Now, the teeth or the gears themselves, there's no huge damage, but again, if you can see it in the light, there is a lot of scratches. I mean, the rag is catching on the sharp edges. I mean, I can see them here on the outside here. I mean, even with my glove, they're catching. So I do have another pump which is in perfect condition, and I'm going to recommend the owner let me use the good pump, and this can become an ornament because there's just too much. It's seen too much actually. Even on this, look, on the insides of the teeth, I can see lots and lots of marks where it's chewed up something. So this is probably, I'll be honest, this is probably one of the worst SC pumps I've ever seen. And I do not recommend this one gets reused. Okay, so just looking at some of the other bits that I've had cleaned up, the exhaust was one of the bones of contention that I had. As you can see, one side is missing the complete heat exchanger part and is completely useless. Well, it's not useless, but it's not going to provide any heat, is it? There's a plane coming overhead. That's awesome. But as you can see, putting them through an ultrasonic cleaner does do them a world of good. It gets rid of all the oil that's actually inside the exhaust itself. And because that happens when an engine's been sitting for a long time, oil seeps past the pump, fills up the case, and then overflows the barrels and goes through the exhaust ports and whatnot. It actually does fill up your exhaust. The original catalytic bypass doodad, it's really just it just merges the two pipes. That's got a perforated tube inside it. That's it. How they got this bolt in here, I'm not quite sure how, but yeah. So I'm gonna have to cut that one off again. That's another one I didn't cut off yet. So I'm not sure what we're gonna do about the exhaust at this point. Yes, that is functional from an exhaust point of view, and unless the owner wants to upgrade to a set of headers at this point, because I think the budget's starting to get a little bit expensive because of the condition of this engine. In terms of barrels, so as we found out when we opened the engine for the first time, it did have the Alusil barrels and pistons. So what we've done is we found a second-hand set of Marley Nikasil barrels, and I have also found a set of the 9.8 to 1 Nikasil compatible pistons, which I'm going to get plastered up and measured and just to make sure they're all within spec. So yeah, a hone will be run through these. They will be cleaned up, and we are going to go for the Nikasil and the higher compression pistons. Okay, so just doing some starting to work on the case. The sizing of the main journals has been done. I'm just checking that there's plenty of clearance for the intermediate shaft which I've installed. As you can see, it turns quite freely. I can grab it on the end of the bearing, the shaft, just give it a spin, and away she goes. So that's good. Nice and freely spinning. Time to move on. There's the shaft there, you can see it spinning. Beautiful. Okay, so part of my process when assembling the engine is to do a bit of a dry assembly. I've got the crankcase with all the bearings and the crankshaft in, and as you can see, it turns nice and free. And now it's time. I've got my cylinders, they're not tensioned down, I've made sure that all my cylinder surfaces, the spigots are nice and flat, and I've got my heads just resting on there, and I've got my straight edge on, and it's perfectly flat across all three. There's no gaps, I can't see any light through when I shine a torch. So I'm happy with this side, so now it's just time to do the other side, make sure that the other side's the same. I'm finally started on the assembly side of things. Here's the case. It's been sized, cleaned, checked that everything's flat, and it is, so the case is ready to be put into service. Some people have sort of asked me a little bit about sizing the main tunnels, and that's one of the things which me and my machinist, or my machinist and I, do together. It's one of those things which, look, the specification on the main tunnel is meant to be 65.00 millimetres, and you've got up to 65.019, which isn't even a thousandth of an inch. And most of these are quite large, and you can probably just see where I've measured it. You probably can't quite make out the texture anymore, but that one was 0.02, and this one was 0.05, and these were 0.06. So yeah, so we're 0.04 millimetres outside of maximum tolerance. So when I actually did I measured the tunnels with the new bearings, and the crankshaft was polished and whatnot, using a micrometer and a bore gauge, I was getting bearing clearances or oil clearances of around 4 thousandths of an inch, which, as we know, 4 to 5 thousandths of an inch is way too much. We really want it to be around the 2 mark. So as it is, I now have perfect bearing clearances, and I also have a nicely turning intermediate shaft. There's the intermediate shaft there, that's had a nice clean, and the crankshaft has been polished. So if you look at the original videos, you'll see that I think I've got them in the original videos. The original crankshaft was quite badly damaged, and instead of grinding the rod journals and the main journals down, we ended up opting for a replacement crankshaft. So this is one of the crankshafts from those engines that I've built from 3 to 3.5 litres, and luckily this one was in very, very good condition. It's got original journal sizes, and yeah, so I've had the rods rebushed and resized, and I'm using ARP rod bolts, of course, because they make things nice and easy. I do use a stretch gauge, and I do use Redline assembly lube, and I do use the ARP thread, the assembly lube, or what do you call it, on the fasteners. So that way you get a nice, a controlled amount of drag, I guess you get, or torque. But I do use a stretch gauge to actually measure the stretch, and the stretch on these bolts is between 9.5 and 10 thousandths of an inch, and I have stretched all of these and they are all within spec. Now the reason why I've taken so long with this one is it's taken a little bit of time with the machine work. One of the bushes I wasn't quite happy with, so I ended up sending the rods back to have another small end bush put in because it was just a little bit too loose. And I'm happy to say they're all absolutely perfect now with just a light push on the pin. They've just got a very, very light drag. So I'm ready to put the case together. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to really video this because it's one of those things that's a bit precarious. It's a little bit hard to do, and I don't have a lot of space. I wish I had someone to hold a GoPro for me. If you know of someone that wants to come and hold a GoPro while I put an engine together, preferably blonde and a size 6. Okay, so that's the strainer plate which goes in the bottom of the case. This is your original one. I've got all the gunk out of the mesh, but I still would have to pull the gaskets off and all that sort of shit. This is your sump plate, which I haven't done anything with. It's badly dented, so someone's jacked it up underneath the sump plate, which isn't great. It's quite badly dented. Don't know if you probably can't really see that there, but it's either hit a rock or someone, again, they've jacked it up underneath that plate with a hard point. This is the updated mesh which goes in the bottom of the case. So it's designed to filter so the pump sucks in through that hole, but nothing gets through this mesh. That's the updated one, and I've got another sump cover, which is a stock one, but it's in much better condition than yours, and I've had it zinc plated, so if you want I could use this one instead. So when I was sizing the case, one of the things I did was I made sure that both sides matched up perfectly. Even when I took the engine apart, there was always a very fine step there between the two case halves, but I've made sure that they're absolutely perfectly flat. There's no step there whatsoever now. Alright, say goodbye to the inside of your engine case. It's never going to be this clean again. Pretty cool, eh?
Well, that's a timely reminder because the news is on its way and the facts don't lie on Ready to ABC Spot.
With Satya Whitestone. The Prime Minister hasn't ruled out extending the halving of the fuel excise as the scheduled cut-off date looms.
He has been in the team this year and haven't for several years. However, the Lithgow Workmen's Club Wolves certainly fielding a team in the Group 10. And yes, the ticket sales would be affected by
the road closure.
By the road closure there at Mount Victoria. Yes, it would have been, and I assume, and I might be wrong here, but I think the rugby league would be probably bailing out the Wolves.
Okay, this year.
I'd say so.
For lost revenue.
For lost revenue.
Because they can't play the matches.
Exactly. That would mainly Lithgow get the Tony Lekedi fee.
The idea that it's tax-free to play for the Pirates,
Yep.
it's not for the Bears, they're both coming in, and the distance the Bears have to travel. I mean, in the end, maybe the Pirates' distance travel will be a problem, but at the moment, the bigger impost is coming from WA.
Yes, you're absolutely right. This comes from Jeff. Overhead change rooms would appear to be net zero, neither adding nor detracting from the sick per problem, at least in this part of the world.
Isn't that great?
That is very good
And
news.
it's very scientific.
And the Newcastle Mars will be happy with that sort of reportage as well. Because
Heavy fucker. Ooh. Oh, there it is. Put him in like that, just hold him up. Short one here. Just enough to put a bit of friction on there, just to stop. Yep, cases together. Pull the guides out. Pull that guide out. So these O-rings need a good slathering of this molly coat. Get a through bolt and an O-ring. And once you put the through bolts through, the O-ring, oh, you probably can't see what I'm doing here. Slide that up through. Now, can you see what I'm doing? I think you can. Put that on there. We slide the O-ring down off the end of the, there we go, it holds the bolt. So I need to put all of these through fairly quickly. Still plenty of molly coat on that one. We want the nut to turn on the surface of the washer. We don't want the washer to turn against the case. Just check the camera angle. I think you can see what's going on there. So I'm just going to drop the washers on now. Let's hope that I'm not making a mistake in my process. There's a bit of extra molly coat on here. I don't think it's an issue. As I said, I'm keeping it away from the case if I can. It's on the washer, it's on the O-ring. Okay, now, so I do preload my nuts and the surfaces with the ARP thread lubricant. I'm just going to put those on loosely just to get them started. The bolt's not turning, don't worry. Bolts facing this way with the nuts on the left hand side of the case, but on the other side of the case, I don't know. All I do know is that this is how Porsche did them at the factory. Right to left. I've done it both ways, but I'm just putting the washer in. I am going to put a bit of torque on these now. Now, I'm obviously not torquing these to spec. This is just to put a bit of preload. I'm also watching my washers to make sure that as I tighten the nut, as it hits the case, the washer's staying stationary, which it is. And the ARP thread lube is reducing the friction between the nut and the washer. So the nut does the rotating and the washer stays stationary on the case. Don't know if you can see that, but you probably can't see it because I think, okay, that washer's moving. Now as it tightens against the case, it sticks. Okay, that just pushes it down there, just seats it a bit better. Get a couple of washers on there. I think I'm about 15 minutes now. Jeez. Okay, time to start torquing everything down. Torque wrench is preset. Hopefully the camera's showing that, but the nut is turning. I'm just going to go around and sort of pre-torque them all a lot more. So this isn't my final torquing sequence. Well, sadly the battery went flat and it's only got 2% charge left, so I thought I'd just quickly show you. Case is together, everything's torqued down, perimeter nuts are done. Good squeeze out, probably a bit too much squeeze out to be honest. I have enough time to rotate it so I can I'll just grab this so you can see I can easily rotate the crank. Whoa. Set upside down, plenty of 574 all over the chain, so I better wipe this off. But yeah, I mean, too much. I could use less, but I'm happy to see plenty of squeeze out because that's always more preferable than not seeing enough. You probably can't see in there, but there's plenty. So I'll wipe that off and I'll let this set up overnight. Well, then I'll start doing the next part. So I think the last video I did might have been where I closed the case and I had the rod sticking out and whatnot and the head studs. So obviously since then I've now gapped the rings, put the pistons and cylinders on the engine, installed the circlips, installed the heads, installed the camshaft towers. I did a couple of little video shorts showing you where I could turn the camshafts nice and freely. So that's working beautifully. And I've now put the chain boxes on and I've got my sprockets installed and I'm about to do the checking of the alignment of the sprockets. So here's a closer look at the engine. So we're using new sprockets, of course, for the camshafts, and I'll have new sprockets for the idler arms as well. But yeah, new chains, of course, and new guides. Haven't put the guides in yet. So I've got everything installed, and as you can see, camshaft turns nice and free. It is quite cold at the moment, so the oil is a bit sort of thick, so to speak. But yeah, they turn nice and free. So to check the sprocket alignment on the camshafts, I'm using the Stomsky Racing tool set, SR008. This is just a nice aluminium block that's got a couple of angles cut in the back, and he supplies it with a little straight edge. So you need to measure the width of your straight edge, and I've got it at 25.57 millimeters. I guess that's probably an inch because it's an American supplied thing. And he gives you this little gauge here, so that you can easily check if it'll focus. So this way you can easily check what the distances from the sprocket should be. So on the early models, on the left-hand side, we're looking for 54.8 millimeters roughly, and on the right-hand side, we're looking for a 0. So the way to set this up is you do have to do a couple of little measurements. 51.47 or 51.46. 51.46. See, depending on 51.46, so I've got 51.46 3 times. So I'm going to go to 51.46 on this gauge. Hard to do.
Now this is only about 3-4 days old.
Zero that.
So it's got a long way to go yet,
Whoop.
and it still has that strong
And now I'm going to add the width of my bar, which is 25.57. 5.57.
I love watching the process of it.
And zero that.
You know,
So now this is zeroed. Now we have to attach the tool. Okay, so I've got the tool installed. I've got my sprocket on the camshaft, nice and tight. And we'll put our tool on. And I'm at 54.61. So I don't know if that shows up, but we're at 54.61. And it's meant to be 54.8 minus 54.61, so I am 0.19 away from optimum, and that's within 0.25 millimetres, because each shim is half a millimetre. So if you're within 0.25, you're doing well. So that's, as far as we're concerned, that's aligned enough. Okay, let's do the right hand side now. So we need to remove the block. Okay, so the right hand side's supposed to be close to zero. Oh! Look at that. So I've got 3 shims on the right hand side. Interestingly though, when I got this engine, it actually had 4 shims on the left and 4 shims on the right. Normally they have 4 on the left and 3 on the right. Okay, so I'm very happy with the chain alignment, or sprocket alignment, whatever you want to call it. I think some people call it parallelity. Either way, the sprockets are in line according to the specs. And yeah, so now it's time to install the rest of the idler arms and put the chains on the sprockets themselves, and it's time to start thinking about doing some camshaft timing. So to do camshaft timing, we need to install rocker arms for number 1 and number 4, and I like to install the rocker arms for the intake and the exhaust, even though when we time the camshafts the Porsche way, they only say to use the intakes, but you tend to find that if you use the exhaust rockers as well, it tends to balance the cam a little bit and stops it from springing or bouncing back. So I always install the intake and the exhaust rockers for number 1 and number 4. Okay. Okay, so let's pull this locating sprocket off. All the shims are still there. So when we're doing camshaft timing, we need to make sure that this is at top dead center, and we need to get the camshaft sort of close. We want the locating, the woodruff key, the slot in the top of the camshaft, to be facing up on both. So we'll now install the woodruff key. We'll slide this one back on. It's in. And now we can install the sprocket. So we want to get the chain on, and I need to install my chain guide as well, but let's get the chain out of the way. Now just double check that that slot's on the top. Oh, it was, because I put the thing on, yep. So that can just go there, and we put our bolt in just to stop it from falling off. So at the moment, I haven't got my locating pin in just yet, because I want to, this isn't at top dead center here, I just want to rotate this to top dead center. Then we'll do the same on the other side. So let's pull this off. Oh, I just want to make sure that's okay. So I should be able to just rotate this to top dead center. Cool. Is install some of these RSR seals. Now these aren't a guarantee against leaks, but they definitely do help to ensure, to give you a very, very good chance of not having any leaks. So it's pretty easy. You don't need to buy a tool for these. You can buy a tool if you want, but I don't see what the point is. Oops. He says that as he fumbles.
demonstration jobs are down. Software jobs haven't crashed as
That one's in.
comes as the CEO of the world's most valuable company, Nvidia.
Oh, come on, Michael. I'm getting nervous because the camera's watching me. I've never ever had an issue putting these on before. There's one. So where we got to before I signed off yesterday is camshafts were installed. I've got my Stomsky chain tensioners, the mechanical tensioners in there, so I can set my camshaft timing. And what you do is you set the crankshaft at top dead center, and sorry, at Z1, and then you have your camshafts located so that both the dots, if they have a dot, or the Woodruff key is facing up, and put your Woodruff keys in there and bolt everything down. And I've got my locating pins in, and this gives us the opportunity to be able to install the rocker arms and rotate the engine without the valves hitting the piston. So it gets us sort of in the ballpark, and then we can set up for camshaft timing. So now I just need to install my rocker arms. Okay, let's try and get this in with a camera in my face. Oh, gotta unscrew the adjuster a little bit.
It's just so great to have such a big name involved in the gospel season. She's going to be on the doubles court with Vicky and Boko.
Serena Williams' return has been the topic of speculation for months after she registered with tennis's mandatory anti-doping program.
There it is. I'm just going to push that home. So again, just a bit of a reminder, see how the boss on this side of the camshaft tower is quite thick, and on this side it's quite thin. So the one thing you want to do is you want to try and line, here's another rocker arm, you want the O-rings to be centred, or you want the shaft to be centred to the rocker arm, not to the camshaft tower. So it's flush, you can just see the lip of the shaft sticking out. Okay, so I've got all my hardware lined up. So I'm going to install the bolt this way. Where's the hole? There it is. Where's the hole? That's what she said. And then get my little 5mm Allen socket in there.
Cold temperature of the Gold Coast, 7.5 degrees at about 5 o'clock this morning. On the Goldie, it was about the same temperature difference in the lives of high school students in Logan and Ipswich. How your school community could get involved with this sunshiny kind of story. Plus, there are now more billionaires in Australia.
I usually find that if I can tighten that up and the Allen key doesn't want to turn the other side, i.e. the shaft's not turning, then I usually find that I've got a pretty good setting and it won't leak. And I have a failing fluorescent light in my garage. I do apologise for that. Okay, so we're all set up to do the camshaft timing. I have installed my little digital degree wheel, and I've determined true top dead centre. That's not important for this, but it's important to set it up before you do the video. So now I've got my valve lash set to 0.1 of a millimetre on both sides, and let's see what sort of camshaft timing we have. Yeah, I'm well advanced. Look, I'm not even at top dead centre yet, and I'm already at 2 millimetres. So what I need to do now is I need to go back to where I want the lift to be, and I'm aiming for around the 1.5 millimetres. So I've backed it off. I'm going to go back up to 1.5 millimetres roughly. Okay. So what I need to do now is to loosen the bolt, and to do that I'm going to use this tool. I'm going to step across here. Now, I haven't got this torqued all the way to spec, but there we go. So we loosen that, get that out. Now I'm just going to get around the other side. Let's pull the bolt out. And to find the pin, the sprocket pin, you don't need a special tool, it just pulls straight out. And now what I'm hoping I can do is, because I've got the camshaft lift where I want it and I've removed the locating pin, I should be able to rotate this back to top dead centre without the camshaft moving. That'll tell me if the camshaft moves. Oh, Jesus. And I'm going to have to get over this side to do it. So now we've got to find the new home, because I think it was down here somewhere. Oh, there we go. Hasn't moved very far. And the thing to consider about these pins and these locating holes here is don't think of them as locating holes, think of them as slots, because in each position there's about, I think there's about 2 or 3 degrees of movement. Okay, so let's put the bolt back in. Okay, now I know it's moved. See, it says I'm at 1 degree, let's pull that out, 1 degree before top dead, sorry, 0.1 of a degree before top dead centre. And it says I've dropped a little bit of lift there, so let's go back to 0. And now let's go back to yeah, 1.41. That's not too bad actually. That's actually not too bad at all. But I want to see if I can get a little bit more advanced than that. Look at that. Oh. Just bounce back a little bit. 0 and 1.51. That's good. That's really good. Okay, we've got everything set up. I think you can see it all. 0 that. Let's go for full 360 degrees. Well past it. Okay, so let's go back to 1.5-ish. The registration pin. Go forwards on the crankshaft. And I'm going to go to 359 because that's where I was last time. I'll go to 360 to get the right pin. Well, that was easy. Pull the bolt out. Okay. Now I haven't tightened that up, but I'm going to go back on the crankshaft to 360 now that I've got that pin. Oh, sorry, to 359 I mean, if I can, without moving the camshaft. Okay. So now I need to try and lock it down. Jiminy crickets. Once. Three, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's going to be close. Oh, I'm going to be over. 1.53. Okay. I think you can see that, 1.53 on there. Let's just rotate it again. $1.57. Yeah, we're too advanced. .56. So we need to back that off a little bit. Oh. 1.49. Okay, let's go again. .52. Oh, there you go. 1.49, 1.52. .52. That's not bad. Last time for luck. .48. So it does vary a bit. So 1.48 to 1.52. One more time. .5. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to swap the tool over to the right-hand side and let's just see what it's showing now. .51. .51. Okay, I'm going to call that quits and I'm going to call that done. I could keep, I mean, you can be chasing your tail for hours trying to get this stuff. I've got it as close to perfect as I think I can. I think using the digital degree wheel is a really good way of ruling out some sort of errors when you're using the parting line on the case and the top dead center mark on the pulley. But don't forget, we're relying on me setting the valve lash at 0.1 on either bank perfectly on either side. We're relying on the camshafts that have perfectly ground lobes. I mean, that's what we're assuming. We're assuming that the rocker arms are exactly the same as each other and that all 12 rocker arms will be exactly the same. So the thing is, there are going to be lots and lots of variances or variables throughout the engine. But the whole idea, at least from my point of view, is if I can control and be as accurate as I can be on the things that I can control, like this and whatnot, then I've done my absolute best for my client. Okay, so for those of you that have been watching the progress on this engine, I promised that I would do a longer video. I've just been setting up the cold start and the fuel pressures and whatnot. And after a few attempts, it's now pretty much sorted. Starts on the button, hot or cold pretty much, and runs well. So this is a 3-litre SC engine, and it looks pretty fancy here. When it came to me, it was the owner it was a running engine, but it was leaking like you would not believe, and he said it was making a clanking noise, and it turns out it had a failed chain tensioner. It had the mechanical tensioners still. So the owner was good enough to work with me, and after explaining quite a few things to him, he realised that now was the time to spend a bit of money, and if we're going to rebuild it, do it correctly. When we pulled it apart, because a lot of debris had gone through the engine, we ended up having to replace the crankshaft. I'll try to insert some photos to show you the condition of the engine when it arrived and also when I pulled it apart. But you can sort of see the crankshaft had a lot of scoring in it, and we tried to have it polished, and at the end of the day, the amount of money it was going to cost to grind it and then get special oversized bearings. I actually had a used crankshaft within virtually perfect specification from an engine that I'd already upgraded to 3.5. And so we elected to just use that crankshaft, and now the owner can sell the old crankshaft to someone that wants to grind it and do something special with it. The bearings, I mean, I don't know if you'll see in the photos that I'll try and put up, but there's some bearings, like, again, you'd never do just a top end only, but this one had a little bit of wear in the bearings. And of course, we were doing a full rebuild anyway, so the case was pulled apart, the plugs were pulled, it was completely cleaned. We've upgraded the camshafts. So the camshafts were obviously completely stock. They did have a little bit of pitting in them, and the rocker arms had a little bit of pitting in a few, but the arms themselves were quite loose on the bushes. So again, the owner was good enough to let me do it properly, and so we had the rocker arms reconditioned. Well, actually, I exchanged them for a set of fully reconditioned arms from a 964, and they've been rebushed by John Doherty over in the United States. And I also got a set of camshafts reground to 964 specification. So the owner's going to have a little bit more performance with this engine, although we are running a stock exhaust system for now. He's going to fit his own aftermarket headers at some point. But yeah, we've had the fuel system rebuilt and the warm-up regulator rebuilt because they were all unknowns. Around the back, it'd be a bit hard to see, but this, I don't have a light with me, but this hose here, this vacuum hose here, that it was completely cracked, had so many cracks, and it would have been sucking air. Also, I don't know who worked on this before many, many years ago, but between the fuel housing, the sensor plate mount and the airbox, there was no gasket. There was just some remnants of silicon, but there was no gasket whatsoever. And things like, you know, between the throttle body and the plastic airbox, they tried to seal it with silicon. Anyway, I'll start it up because I know you're sick of hearing me. So we'll start it up and see how we go. I'll just connect my earth strap. So there we go, job's done. Time to pull it off the stand and try and pack it onto a pallet.